Summer calls for effortless knitting projects. Complicated patterns can wait, right? The Daydream Zephyr sweater is a perfect example on how to knit a sweater that's both beginner-friendly and stylish. This sweater is named after the gentle breeze of the Mediterranean and can be knitted with plant-based yarn for those summer evenings or with a soft wool for cozy autumn weekends. It's a basically basic design featuring timeless thin, elegant stripes and a simple cable pattern that adds a touch of charm. Okay, let's dive into the construction of the Zephyr sweater. This top-down sweater is knit in the round. We start with a classic 1x1 rib neck and move onto the yoke, where we increase stitches and create a beautiful cable pattern every 7th round. Are you worried about tricky techniques? No need. The cable itself is a breeze. I will show you right now how simple it is. Slip 4 stitches onto the cable needle and hold it in front. Knit the next 4 stitches. Return the stitches from the cable needle back to the left needle. And knit them. Nothing complicated, right? There are no confusing short rows. Instead, we will knit a slightly longer back section for shaping a more open neckline. Then we divide the piece for the body and sleeves. This is where the stripes come in. We will use a combination of 6 rounds in the main color with 2 rounds in the contrasting color. We will finish with a 1x1 rib at the bottom and move into the sleeves, which are also knitted in the round with evenly placed decreases. You have a lot of options for sleeve length: short, elbow or long, the choice is yours. Download the pattern on Etsy or Ravelry because this step-by-step video tutorial is a visual guide. The pattern provides all the specific stitch counts you need to create the Daydream Zephyr sweater in your size. I will leave a link for you in the description, where you will also find all the important information about yarn, needles, gauge. I used DK weight yarn for this project. I've also prepared for you a free yarn guide with popular yarn options, perfect not only for this sweater, but for any DK project. Download it for free on my website scenic.com in the goodies section. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will be right there to answer. And before we dive into the Zephyr sweater, here's a sneak peek on what's coming next. The Mellow Mood top. This exciting design is a DK weight version of the beloved Mellow Mood sweater with the same stylish raglan lines and added option of an I-cord edge. This top arrives in late June with a brand new video tutorial. Subscribe to be the first to know when it's released. Download the pattern to get started because you need to know the stitch count for casting on, and then we can get started with the first part. And if you like this design, please let me know with a thumbs up. Let's get started with the neck. Grab your main color yarn. We will be working the entire yoke with it. In my case, it's this light beige color, and for stripes later, I have some brown yarn ready. Using your main color yarn, cast on the number of stitches required for your size according to the pattern with 3.5mm needles and 40 cm cable. This is US size 4, 16 inches. In this video I am using the long tail cast on, but any method that works for you is perfectly fine. Add 1 extra stitch at the end for a seamless join. We will decrease the stitch in the next round. Double check your stitches to make sure they are not twisted. Now let's join the stitches in the round. Slip the stitch from the left needle to the right needle. Then pass the second stitch on the right needle over the one you just slipped and drop it off the needle. Slip the third stitch back to the left needle and gently tuck the tail to tighten the stitches. Place a marker here to mark the beginning of the round. We will work in a 1x1 rib stitch pattern to create a nice crew neck. This means knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch, and repeat that sequence all the way around. Refer to the pattern for the exact number of rounds, either 10 or 12 depending on your size. This should give us a rib section of about 3 cm or 1.3 inches tall. Keep repeating this knit one, purl one until you've completed the entire round. In the next rounds, simply knit the knit stitches and purl the purl stitches. Great job! The neck is complete and we are ready to move on to creating the yoke of the sweater. Alright friends, let's get started on shaping the yoke using the raglan technique. This technique creates those beautiful diagonal lines that seamlessly shape the sleeves. We will be placing stitch markers in this setup round. Before we dive into knitting, prepare your 4 mm needles with 40 cm cable length, that's US size 6, 16 inches. And let's shape the first raglan section. If you don't have a cable that long, no worries, you can use the magic loop method. I will add a link above. Temporarily set aside your beginning of round marker and then purl one stitch. Followed by knitting 8 stitches. This will be the part of the cable pattern. And finish with another purl stitch. These purl stitches will help make the cable stand out more. Here's where we place our first stitch marker, marking the end of the first raglan section. Now let's focus on the back section. Knit the number of stitches indicated in the pattern for your size. I need size S. Once you've finished knitting the back stitches, place another stitch marker and move on to the next raglan line. And repeat the same sequence. Purl one stitch, knit 8 stitches, purl one stitch, and place marker number 3. Knit the required number of stitches for the right sleeve. Place marker number 4 and create another raglan line by purling 1 stitch, knitting 8 stitches, and finishing with a purl stitch. Place marker number 5 to mark the end of this line. Move on to the front section and knit the required number of stitches for your size. Place marker number 6. Finally work the last 4th raglan line with 1 purl stitch, followed by knitting 8 stitches, and ending with another purl stitch. Place marker number 7. Now knit the remaining stitches for the last sleeve. Place the beginning of the round marker back to its original position. Great job! We have laid the foundation of our beautiful raglan sweater. We placed 7 stitch markers and created 4 raglan lines. Round 1 and most odd-numbered rounds, except the cable rounds we will learn later, follow a similar pattern. We will create those raglan lines, add new stitches for shaping, and knit all the stitches for each section of the sweater. Ready? Let's walk through round 1 together, step by step. First raglan line. Start by purling 1 stitch, knitting 8 stitches, and purling 1 stitch again. Slip the marker and now let's add a new stitch next to the raglan line using a technique called make one left. We need to pick up the strand between the last stitch and the next stitch from front to back with our left needle. I use my right needle because it seems to be easier for me. Next, we have to knit this loop through the back loop. I move my right needle from the front loop to the back loop and knit. Voila, we have created a new stitch. Then knit all the stitches for the back section until you reach the next marker. Here we will use make one right to add another stitch. Pick up the strand between the last stitch we knit and the next one from the back to front with the left hand needle. If needed, you can use your right needle to help guide the strand, as I do. With your right needle, knit this newly picked up strand of yarn as if it were a regular stitch. You've just created a new stitch on your right needle. Making those increases might feel a bit tricky at first, but don't worry. With a little practice you will make one right and make one left like a pro in no time. This is a fundamental increase technique you will encounter often in knitting, so mastering it now will benefit you in future projects. Okay, slip marker and work the second raglan line with purl 1, knit 8, and purl 1. Slip marker and make one left to increase. Knit all the stitches for the right sleeve section until you reach the next marker. Make one right to increase one stitch. Slip marker and follow the pattern with another raglan line. Purl 1, knit 8, purl 1. Again slip marker and make one left. Knit all stitches for the front section to the next marker. Make one right. Almost there. Slip marker, knit the last raglan line with purl 1, knit 8, purl 1. Slip marker and make one left. Knit all stitches for the left sleeve section to the end of the round. And finish with and make one right increase. Round 1 complete. We have added a total of 8 stitches in this round. Round 2. This round, along with all even-numbered rounds, as 4, 6, follows the same pattern as round 1, but without any increases. We start by repeating the first raglan line, purl 1, knit 8, purl 1. Then, for the back section, simply knit all the stitches until you reach the next marker. We will follow this same pattern for each section of the sweater. So walk the raglan line again, purl 1, knit 8, purl 1, and then knit all the stitches for the right sleeve. Repeat for the front and left sleeve. And just like that, round 2 is complete. Now all we need to do is repeat rounds 1 and 2 more times. In total 6 rounds. I will see you here back in round 7. We dive into round 7, where we will add a special touch with some beautiful cables. This round is unique among odd-numbered rounds because we will incorporate cables into the raglan lines where we would normally need 8 stitches. Here's how we do it. Start by purling the first stitch and get your cable needle ready. Slip the first 4 stitches onto the cable needle and hold it in front. Next, knit the next 4 stitches from your main needle. Now return the 4 stitches from the cable needle back to the left needle and knit them. Keep a firm grip to ensure they don't slip off. And we have created a simple cable. Purl the next stitch to complete the first raglan line. And don't forget to make one left increase. Continue knitting until you reach the next marker. Then make one right increase to maintain the shaping of our sweater. Now for the second raglan line, let's create another cable. Follow the same steps. Purl the first stitch, slip 4 stitches onto the cable needle and hold it in front. Knit the next 4 stitches return the stitches from the cable needle back to the left needle. And knit them. Purl the next stitch to complete the second raglan line. Easy, right? And repeat the steps for the remaining sections of this sweater. Round 7 is complete and we have 4 cables. We will continue creating these cables every 7th round, while the rest of the time we simply knit all stitches and purl the raglan 8 stitches. Round 8 is the same as every even-numbered rounds. Work the raglan line with purl 1, knit 8, purl 1 and knit the stitches to the next marker and repeat for other sections. Now continue repeating rounds from 1 to 8, the required number of times for your size, until you reach the control point number 1. And before we dive back into the knitting, let me share some of my favorite tips to make your knitting process even smoother. Every knitter has their own tricks and techniques, and here are a few of my favorites to help you achieve beautiful results. Keeping track of rounds, especially when cable rounds are involved, can sometimes be tricky. Here's a method I use to avoid confusion. At the beginning of the first raglan line in round 8, place a removable stitch marker on your work. This serves as your new starting point. Instead of counting every round from the beginning, simply count the following 7 rounds from your placed marker. This way you will know exactly when the next cable round is coming up. Add a crochet hook to your knitting bag. This handy tool can be a lifesaver if you accidentally drop a stitch. Simply use the hook to grab the loose yarn and pull it back up onto your needle. I use 3mm crochet hook even for Aran weight yarn. When joining a new ball of yarn, try to do so near a raglan line. This way, when you weave in the ends later, they will be hidden amongst the patterned stitches. Here's a fantastic method I learned from Norman at Nimble Needles called the twist and weave. Prepare the new yarn. Insert your right needle into the next stitch. Place the new yarn between the 2 needles. Cross the old yarn tail over the new yarn. Take the new yarn tail and bring it back between the 2 needles. Wrap the yarn around the needle. Bring another part of the new yarn in the opposite direction. Pull the tail gently to tighten. And here's the key step. Pull the yarn through the loop as shown. As you knit and increase stitches during raglan shaping, the circumference of your project will gradually grow. This might mean your current 40 cm circular needles won't be long enough to comfortably hold all the stitches. Consider switching to a longer cable length around 80 cm or 31 inches or 100 cm or 40 inches once it feels uncomfortable to work on your current needles. But don't rush to switch needles too early, or wait until the increased stitches make it feel uncomfortable to work on your current cable length. If you are working with magic loop, you can continue using your current circular needles throughout the yoke. I highly recommend using a knitting lifeline every 10 cm or 4 inches. If you make a mistake, you can unravel your work back to the lifeline without unraveling the entire piece. This allows you to pick up the stitches on the lifeline and continue knitting from there. You will need a tapestry needle and some leftover yarn in a contrasting color, thinner than your working yarn. I divide into 2 my contrasting colored yarn. With a right side of your work facing you, carefully insert the tapestry needle with the yarn threaded through a live stitch on the needle. Then continue inserting the yarn through all the live stitches on the needle, creating a round of contrasting yarn. As you knit, repeat this process of inserting a lifeline every 10 cm or 4 inches, or whenever you feel the need for an extra safety net, for example in the control points. Lifelines are a valuable tool that can save you time and frustration. That's all for our essential raglan tips. Let's meet at control point number 1, where we will try on the sweater. Get ready to see your beautiful work come to life and ensure a perfect fit. Control point number 1. The most challenging part of knitting the yoke is behind us. Let's take a moment to pause, admire our work and ensure everything is on track. Carefully review your work and compare your stitch count to the pattern instructions for each section, back, front, sleeves. Don't worry if you are missing a few stitches here or there. You can easily add them in the following even numbered rounds using the same increase methods as in the odd numbered rounds. This is also a good opportunity to check your gauge. And if everything looks good, we are ready to proceed. From this point forward, we will make increases only in the back and front sections. The sleeves have reached their final stitch count and no longer require additional increases. In all odd numbered rounds as 1, 3, 5, 7, we begin as usually with a raglan line. Purl 1, knit 8. And purl 1. Make one left increase, and knit to the marker. Make one right increase and work another raglan line. Purl 1, knit 8. Purl 1. Moving on to a right sleeve. To avoid accidentally increasing for the sleeves, I change my marker to a dark color as a reminder. We knit to the next marker. Skip the increase and change the marker again to the dark color. We will continue in this manner, working a raglan line, increasing for the front section and skipping the sleeve increase. We have successfully completed the yoke. Control point number 2. Let's check the stitch count to ensure everything matches the pattern instructions. Now comes the exciting part, trying on your sweater for the first time. Slip half of the stitches onto a scrap yarn, another pair of thinner needles or silicone cord. If the neckline feels a bit snug at this stage, don't worry, wet blocking will help it relax and achieve the desired fit. If everything fits well, congratulations! Simply return the stitches back onto your needles and we are ready to move on to the next step. Now it's time to start shaping the neckline for a comfortable fit. We will be working flat on the back section between the raglan lines to create a flap. Ensure you are at the beginning of the round on the right side of your work. Slip the beginning of round marker and start with the first raglan line. Purl 1, knit 8, purl 1, slip marker and knit all stitches for the back section until you reach the next marker. Slip marker, work the next raglan line with purl 1, knit 8, purl 1. Turn your work on the wrong side and work the raglan line, but on the wrong side we knit one stitch, purl 8, and knit 1. Slip marker and purl all stitches until you reach the next marker. Slip marker and work the next raglan line with knit one stitch, purl 8, and knit 1. Turn your work onto the right side and repeat these 2 rows 2 more times, totaling 6 rows. Row 7. Turn your work to the right side. In this row, we create a cable, similar to how we did throughout the yoke. Work the first raglan line with purl 1, then make a cable. Slip the first 4 stitches onto the cable needle and hold it in front. Knit the next 4 stitches from your main needle. Return the 4 stitches from the cable needle back to the left needle and knit them. Purl 1, slip marker and knit to the next marker. Slip marker and work the second raglan line with purl 1 and again cable. Purl 1. Turn your work to the wrong side. Row 8. Knit 1, purl 8, knit 1, slip marker and purl to the next marker. Slip marker, knit 1, purl 8, knit 1. We have now created one cable pattern. Repeat rows from 1 to 8 one more time for a total of 16 rows or 2 cable patterns. Done! We have successfully shaped the neckline. We have reached the point where we will separate the stitches for the sleeves and the body. Prepare a tapestry needle with thin scrap yarn in a contrasting color. We are starting a new round, so knit the raglan line as usual. Purl 1, knit 8, and purl 1. Remove stitch markers as you go, except for the beginning of a round marker. Knit all the stitches for the back section until you reach the next marker. Work the second raglan line with purl 1, knit 8, purl 1. Use the tapestry needle with a contrasting yarn to slip the sleeve stitches. Cast on the required number of stitches for your size for the underarm using the simple backward loop method. Purl the next stitch and tighten it to avoid a hole. Knit 8 stitches. Purl 1. Continue knitting all the stitches for the front piece till the next marker. Purl the next stitch. Knit 8 stitches. Purl 1. Slip these sleeve stitches onto another piece of scrap yarn or a silicone cord. I will show you how I do this. Cast on the required number of stitches for your size for the other underarm with a backward loop method. We have successfully separated the sleeve stitches onto scrap yarn. This leaves us with 4 raglan lines, the back and front sections of the sweater body, and the newly custom stitches for the underarms on our needles. In just a few rounds, we will be diving into the fun part, stripes. We are back at the beginning of the round. We will begin with 6 rounds using our main color yarn. Knit all the stitches on your needles, including the newly custom stitches for the underarms. These new stitches might feel a bit tight at first, but it will be easier in the next round. Control point number 3. Before diving into stripes, you can check how a sweater fits you so far. This is a good opportunity to make adjustments if needed. If the sweater seems too small or too large, you can unravel back to the yoke section and adjust the cable numbers based on a size chart. So, 6 rounds are done, and now we will add our contrasting color, brown in my case. Place the beginning of the round marker in the middle of the armhole. To prevent tangles when twisting later, I recommend center pulling the yarn. First, we need to secure the new color properly. I will be using the twist and weave method shown in the tips section, but you can choose whichever method works best for you. We have 2 methods for creating stripes with minimal color jogs. The first one requires a few extra steps, but it tackles the color change differently. Let's take a look. We will begin by knitting the new color until the end of the round. Then slip the first stitch from the left needle to the right needle, knitwise. And here's the key part. Twist the 2 yarns together. Pull the new color from the back of the previous color and twist them. We will do this twist at the end of each round to prevent those jogs. This is how the twist looks on my sample top. Finally, knit the second round with the new color. Okay, time to switch back to our main color. Here's what we do. Tighten up the last stitch knitted in this color, this one. See how small it is? Wrap the main color with the contrasting yarn from the previous round from the back. And knit the next stitch loosely. Don't pull too tight or the fabric might get distorted. Knit to the end of the round. I hide the color I don't use right now in the knitted piece. It helps not to tangle 2 colors. Repeat the slipping, twisting, and knitting to the end of this round. Work 6 rounds in your main color, remembering to twist the yarns together at the end of each round. Okay, we need to work 2 rounds in the contrasting color again. Here's how it looks from the back. And first, tighten up the last stitch of this color from 6 rounds ago, like this. Twist 2 colors and loosely knit the first stitch. Knit a new color to the end of the round. Slip the stitch knitwise, twist 2 colors and work the second round. Let's take a look at the simpler option for jogless stripes. You will start the same way. Join the new color. And knit to the end of the round, just like we did before. And this is your third stitch. Pick up the stitch at the contrast color from the round below and lift it on the needle. And knit together the first stitch and this lifted one. And knit to the end of the round. Repeat these steps every time you need to add a new color. You can twist the yarn at every 4 or 6 rounds. This is how the finished sleeve with this jogless method looks like. And from the wrong side. Now let's compare this sleeve to the one I finished earlier using the jogless method number 1. So choose the method that works best for you. You've got the idea. Now keep working with stripes until you reach the desired length of the sweater body. Remember, we will be adding ribbing to the bottom later, so take that into account. Finish with 2 rounds in the contrasting color and then we will meet at the next control point. Control point number 4. Let's take a look at stripes with method 1. Here's how they look from the front and from the wrong side. I joined the new yarn from the opposite side to keep the twisted seam clean to show you. And as you can see, the color transition is minimal, the yoke is almost invisible. Okay, slip the stitches to a spare circular needles or a scrap yarn and try on the sweater. How's the length? If you would like a more fitted bottom, we can make some simple decreases in this next round. We finished the last 2 rounds in the contrasting color, and to create a smooth transition from our stripes to the ribbing, let's knit 1 more round in our main color. Let's switch to the smaller needles, 3.5 mm, this is US size 4, and I have interchangeable ones, and follow the decreasing instructions for your size. And if you prefer the bottom edge as is, skip the decreases and just knit it to the end of the round. I knit 4 stitches. And knit 2 stitches together. And repeat to the end of the round. Done with the decreases, and now we will finish the sweater with a 1x1 ribbing. Knit 1, purl 1 and repeat this pattern for 15 or 17 rounds depending on your size. Ribbing is complete and you can try on the sweater again to check the fit. Once you're happy, we will close the stitches using a simple method, but you can always choose your preferred method. Awesome! The body of the sweater is complete. Let's move on to the sleeves. I've already knitted the left sleeve and this is how it looks. We work with sleeve with 4 mm US 6 needles, and I will be starting with 40 cm cable, this is 16 inches, for easy demonstration, but then I will switch to the magic loop method for working in the round. I have a tutorial on how to knit the sleeve with the magic loop method and I will leave a link for you in the video description. Alright, let's begin with the right sleeve and slip all stitches from the scrap yarn back to the needle. Next, we will pick up stitches along the armhole. I need to pick up 1 stitch before the underarm stitches for my size. Here is how. Take a new skein of yarn in the main color and leave a long enough tail for later adjustments. And make the first stitch. Feel free to pick up an extra stitch if needed to avoid any holes, but decrease it with a knit 2 together in the next round. Now pick up the underarm stitches. I have 6 in this case. Then I pick up one more extra stitch for my size. And finally pick up stitches from the side of the additional rows for the back. If there is a gap between stitches, just pick up the closest loop you see. Here we will cast on every other stitch. If your size requires more stitches, simply pick up a few times in every stitch. Done. Count all stitches and compare them with the knitting pattern. Then knit all the stitches and decrease any if necessary. Now place a beginning of a round marker in the middle of the armhole. This marks the new beginning of a round for the sleeve. Our sleeve has evenly placed decreases, and I will show you how to make them a little later in the video. For now, we need to knit 23 more rounds in the main color before starting the first stripe. I will meet you again when we get to the first decreasing round. Okay, this is the round where we decrease 2 stitches. We are at the beginning of the round and knit the first stitch. Then we knit 2 stitches together and decrease the third stitch. Then knit to the last 3 stitches. And make a slip slip knit decrease. Here is how. Slip the third stitch as if to knit. Then slip the second stitch as if to knit. Now slip both stitches back to the left needle and knit them together through the back loop. That's it. We decreased the second stitch and knit the last stitch in this round. Now continue knitting in the main color until you've completed 24 rounds. I place a removable marker after the first round to easily count for the next decrease round. Done. After the main color rounds, follow the 8 round stripe repeat. Knit 2 rounds in a contrasting color, followed by 6 rounds in the main color. Complete the desired number of stripes and finish with 2 rounds in the contrasting color. As you knit, try on the sleeve to check the length and make adjustments if needed. And I will see you at the control point number 6. Control point number 6. Try on the sweater to check the sleeve length. And don't forget, we will be adding a 5 cm or 2-inch ripped cuff later, so don't worry if it feels a bit short right now. If you would like to adjust the sleeve length, make it shorter or longer, make sure to keep the stripes even. You can achieve this by adding or unraveling sets of 8 rounds. Just remember to finish with 2 rounds in your contrasting color before diving into the ribbing. Before we dive into cuff, let's make a smooth transition by knitting 1 round in our main color. Done. Then switch to smaller needles, 3.5 mm US 4, and work a 1x1 rib pattern. Control point number 7. Try on the sweater again. This time let's focus on the fit of the cuffs. If you would like them to be a bit more snug, we can easily make some adjustments. Unravel back to the round with knitted stitches before ribbing. Knit this round again and evenly decrease an even number of stitches using the knit two together technique. Once you are happy with the fit, loosely cast off all stitches. And that's it for the first sleeve. Repeat the steps for the second sleeve, and then we will move on to the final step that will make your creation truly shine. Now let's take care of those little finishing details. Turn your work inside out, wrong side facing you, and using a tapestry needle within the yarn tails. You might have some looser stitches around the cable areas. No worries, use your tapestry needle to catch them and hide with the yarn tail. When everything is woven in and secured, it's time to wet block our sweater. Fill a sink with lukewarm water and add a gentle detergent. Gently submerge the sweater and let it soak for 15–20 minutes. Carefully rinse out. And squeeze out excess water without wringing or twisting the sweater too much. Wrap the sweater in a clean towel and press gently to remove more water. Lay the sweater flat on a dry towel in its desired final shape and let it air dry completely. And this is the final result. See that amazing difference? Wet blocking helps relax the stitches and even out the fabric. The Zephyr sweater began as a Daydream Zephyr, inspired by the peace and serenity of gentle summer winds. I believe the most beautiful garments are those filled with personal stories. That's why I encourage you to give your Zephyr Ravelry project a name that reflects your unique summer dream. I would love to see what colors you've chosen for your Zephyr and share your creation with #ZephyrSweater. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know with a thumbs up and feel free to leave a comment below. See you soon in the next tutorial.